How could I? How could I not have a call for two with this oscillating weather here in Houston? Oh, it's terrible. One thing I forgot, though. Well, first of all, let me pray that you can hear me. Uh, One thing that I forgot to add into the synthesis for you guys to get a better understanding of Mercury is the aspects. It seems that Mercury in itself, by itself, is mysterious enough. It's very androgynous. And let me just throw in there that it also rules androgyny, right? Mercury also rules the act of celibacy, but it can also rule uh, glorified, pleasurized masturbation, both in its lowest form, right? Fantasizing about other people or watching pornography in your mind or on TV, but also Kundalini work, which doesn't require any of that, those images. So Mercury, rules a lot. Remember, it is the alchemist, and sex is very much a part of alchemy. So understand that this complex little guy packs a punch. We don't know which one packs the bigger punch, Mercury or Pluto. These two little guys pack a punch. One is too close to the sun, and the other one too far away from the sun. That's not by accident, although we don't know particularly what that means. I hope you can hear me. Hey, I gotta squint and look. Written in stone. I gotta give me some glasses. This is crazy. But they don't have any here. They don't have any here. Ain't that crazy? This is Saturn. This is Saturn in the third house, or flipping the third house from Aries. Oh God, now it was so nasty. Then it's nice. Then it's not. You know, we're still under a retrograde. It feels like we've been on it forever. But let me discuss real quick the aspects to Mercury. It seems that Mercury by itself, like I was saying, doesn't award as much. But when we begin to compare it to other planets through aspects, all of a sudden Mercury comes alive. It's almost like an enzyme, right? And then a coenzyme. Or you have the DNA, RNA, transfer RNA, right? You have the different types of functions of the DNA double helix molecule. Well, it seems that uh, Mercury can also mean, you know how you have atoms, right? And protons and neutrons. Scientists have been able to break the atom down to even further fine particles, neutrinos. They seem inactive until they do. Well, it's Mercury's like that. It's a neutrino, not an atom. But once it gets with an atom, it activates. So Mercury also rules um, activation, something that is dormant and awakens. Right? Uh, Part of the level up or blow up of people upgrading their DNA is ruled by Mercury. And as you all know, I have blown up and up level every time, but I have Mercury powerful on the ascendant. You know? Um, God. It rules all kinds of things. But let's talk about the conjunction. The one that if you got the moon, remember the moon represents emotions. It represents emotions. Mercury represents the opposite of that. Logic. Think of Dr. Spock and think of Mercury. And then for the moon, think of a woman and her emotional essence, which makes her ultra feminine, the energy of Cancer, right? Cardinal water. When you have Mercury conjunct the moon, two things can happen. The person will bury their feelings, bury their emotions, or pretend that it's not there. Uh, that's the negative side. The positive side is that when the person communicates through, speech, or even through written language like love letters. Have you ever read love letters? I have, of women and men. And you can feel the love or the intent in the words. That's Mercury conjunct the moon. Or someone speaking a scientific subject, let's say, and like mathematics or planetary science, this could be very boring stuff. You have to really be creative to get the average human being interested in these types of subjects. So let's say you have Mercury conjunct the moon and you are a science professor. With the moon conjunct Mercury, your lectures and theses come alive. The students are fascinated by your explanation and your lecturing because it's not cold and clinical. There's something poetic and allegorical about how one expresses difficult subject in a kind of romantic way, or even mysterious and elusive that makes the student want more. This is Mercury conjunct the moon and its positive aspect. But talking about it interpersonally, uh, Mercury conjunct the moon can cause a lot of problems in people connecting and relating to other people. You know, uh, especially because these people may not be connected to their own feelings or emotions. So then it becomes projected. This also happens with the moon opposing Mercury. But the problem doesn't become the, well, it kind of does. Uh, so we're all responsible for our actions, thoughts, and feelings and actions, right? With the moon opposing Mercury, understand the psychology of the opposition. It doesn't matter what planet we're talking about. The opposition, the psychology of the opposition is lack of awareness. There's a fundamental lack of emotional or mental awareness of how you come across to people. And there's a fundamental lack of understanding how people react and respond to you. This can cause some challenges in interpersonal relationships, where one partner is not aware of the emotional needs of another, or the emotional person does not know how to articulate in words what they're feeling and what they need. See, both ways. Uh, there's usually a conflict with your mother. The moon rules your mother and the mother experience and how you receive love and nurturing through the agency of the moon. With Mercury opposing the moon, your parents probably never told you that they love you. Even though they do love you, but they never said it. Or you never got a hug from your mother. Not because she was bitter or cold, but because she probably was not used to that kind of demonstrative affection. Because she didn't get that from her own mother. So then it passes down to the child. Where you don't say, I love you today, just to say I love you, or give you a big hug. 'Cause that's not going to happen when you have Mercury opposing the moon. And it can create a host of social problems when you grow up. You know, the trauma really occurs in the formative years. That's Mercury opposing the moon. When it comes to love and marriage and relationship, it could be a disaster where one partner doesn't understand emotionally the other, or one partner cannot articulate how they feel about themselves and another person and the relationship as a whole. I'm having a drink. I ain't supposed to, open that, but that's the Mercury in me. I have to deviate, And you gotta make your own fun, okay? So, the square. The square is a difficult aspect. They all are, but they all can be very good too if you are very elevated, very aware, and you can transcend or transmute the energy, alchemize the energy. The square is just straight up conflict. Straight up conflict. Conflict with women, conflict with the inner feminine within you, if you're a man, arguments, hurt feelings. That's about the worst of it. The silent treatment, that's all the square because it's done deliberately. The square is about conflict, just total conflict. And this conflict was birthed in childhood. Don't forget that the moon rules the gestational development of a human being, right from the womb. This is the type of position where if the parents are fighting while the woman is pregnant, the child is going to think in the womb that they're fighting about them. But when the child is born, he could have all kinds of social, psychosocial, psycho-emotional maladjustments that has to be corrected before the person matures to the ego, which occurs by age 7. These are psychological experiences of development, but also trauma, causing an impediment of those developments that have to occur without interruption in the formative years. If there is interruption here, it's going to create a deficient adult. You know, uh, this is the Mercury square in the moon. Saturn. No, let's go with Venus. Venus is very similar to the moon. And I have to describe the moon and Venus so you can understand the differences, although quite subtle. But at the same time, they both, Venus and the moon, represent the same principles. But one is internalized and one is externalized. Uh, the moon usually takes the lead in externalizing feelings, needs, and wants. The Venus aspect does not externalize this, it keeps it inward as a form of self assurance and immovable conviction of self. Uh, it believes to balance the outer with how one feels inside, inward. But also, if you vibrate a certain way, that's going to create your externalized world. If you are affectionate and considerate and loving and kind to yourself, then you will attract others that are in the same way and are willing, capable of showing love and expression to you. When Venus is in opposition to Mercury, well, let me go to the conjunction. Let me keep it in order. When Venus conjunct the moon, it's fickle, changeable, moody. It can be emotionally selfish or emotionally dismissive. When Venus is conjunct the moon, but it also occurs with the conjunction of Mercury. But that's about the worst of it. Mercury conjunct Venus, this person is going to vibrate like a Libra person. The nice words to say, doesn't rock the boat. They keep things superficial and marginally, no profundity, you know, uh, concerned with the lighter side of life. With Mercury conjunct Venus, you may have singing abilities, writing lyrics, writing music, or singing, especially if it's on the ascendant. Uh, Motivational speakers like Adrian Hicks or what's the other one? The black guy, good guy. I forgot his name at the moment. They have Mercury conjunct Venus. And what a preacher will say without this aspect in his chart will be dull and boring. But the preacher or the motivational speaker that has this position of Mercury conjunct Venus will captivate an audience. People will break down the door to get in to hear his sermons and speeches. They ain't gonna fall asleep on the chair, begging and praying that it's over. Now, this person takes you to a journey with the power of his words. When Mercury is conjunct Venus, uh, some songwriters and gospel singers, including if their preoccupation is succeeding in church gospel music, we find this signature also in the charts of these people. hmm Uh, if we're talking about the lower ego, and we're talking about externalized manifestation, um, understand that Mercury rules automobiles, cars. With Venus conjunct Mercury, the person can change cars every year to a different model, a different grade, a different color, and they're constantly shifting cars. This is someone with Mercury conjunct Venus. The love of cars and everything about them. The movie The Fast and the Furious with Diesel is an example of Mercury conjunct Venus. Well, there's a love of danger, love of cars, and there might be a possibility for a romantic interlude here and there, which the film does show. So this is an expression of Mercury conjunct Venus as an externalized physical expression of its energy versus the more psycho-emotional internalized processes. I know the mosquitoes, oh, they love my blood. Then we have Saturn. But the Saturn is the conjunction of Venus. No, we're gonna go back to Mercury. I wanted to make a side reference to it, but no, it might be confusing. Saturn conjunct Mercury can make someone very stern, and there's a deep level of concentration that can vibrate the semblance of meanness. Now, the person doesn't have to be mean. The person could be very sweet, very nice. But their demeanor will not show it. The the Saturn kind of, it's like a drill sergeant in the army or a warden in a prison system. And it says the letter of the law. Judge Judy, the show, the Judge Judy, with, I believe her name is Shineland, right? She's a Scorpio. Judge Judith Shineland. Yeah. If you watch her shows, she's cutthroat, ruthless with her words and how she look at you. This is Mercury conjunct Saturn, because Saturn represents her position as a judge, and Mercury represents the paperwork that's on her in front of her and whatever it is that she's trying to bring clarity to. And it's done quite efficiently. I love watching the show. I love watching that kind of discipline. But she will tear you up, out, through, and beyond. Okay? That's an expression, a signature of Saturn conjunct Mercury. The opposition. Saturn opposes Mercury. I have the signature. I have Saturn in Aries in the seventh house, opposing Mercury in Libra and the South Node and the Ascendant. People with Saturn opposing Mercury is actually the best aspect that brings out the positive energy for both Mercury and Saturn. Mercury rules writing, and Saturn opposing Mercury can make you a great writer. Whether that's writing plays, writing a novel, it makes you a very good writer. And I'm definitely that. because I have the aspect. Uh, the person who speaks with Saturn opposing Mercury may not be aware, because again, the opposition deals with lack of psychological awareness, how they come across. People tell me that I come across mean and don't care, and that's why I have a lot of enemies. I've always known that. People are inclined not to like me before they like me. You know, or they think I'm handsome and pretty. They approach me, they hear me speak, and they get turned off. Because I don't mince words. I say what I mean what I say. Uh, if you ask for my opinion, I'll give it to you. If not, keep it to yourself. I'm very black and white that way. No compromise. And it can make the person appear cold and kind of brazen. This is Saturn opposing Mercury. Uh, don't forget that Saturn rules a cardinal sign, Capricorn. And it doesn't stand for bullshit now. So when it opposes Mercury, don't start none, won't be none. Don't come here with bullshit, and I won't have to take out the sword. It's that type of situation with Saturn opposing Mercury, especially on the ascendant, because these people don't have time to entertain superficial banter. It's about the seriousness of something. These people will have to learn to relax more and take life with a grain of salt. The square. Ooh, the square is not an internal psychological process. If it is, it's one of reservation and conservatism. But if we're talking about it as an externalized energy, we are talking about episodic situations happening around you. Don't forget that Mercury rules automobiles and cars. Saturn squaring that, you can have devastating car accidents or even die in this way. You know, there could be constant issues or problems with your vehicle, your car. That is symbolic of something deeper psychologically happening within you. It's deep. It's deep. Uh, we're gonna stop here, and we'll do the rest of the planets in the other entry. I hope you liked it. I hope it was exciting. I hope it was insightful. You can call for readings tonight, today, now. We have I haven't done them in so long. Uh, I I've been so busy. Really crunch time there. But I will be doing readings all day. So make sure that if you want one, um, ooh, do what you gotta do. Cash App or Zelle. And guys, I hope this helps somebody.